Greetings, Commanders, Cerebrates, and Executors. In this episode, we're going to be talking about special abilities in StarCraft. There are a lot of units that have special abilities they can cast. Often these abilities need to be researched before you can use them. And these abilities appear on the command card of the unit in question. If you select multiple units that each have their own special abilities, though, none of the abilities appear on the command card. Command cards of units with different abilities don't overlap. In order to cast special abilities, you have to either select only one unit, or select multiple units of the same type that have the same ability, and then those abilities will still appear on the command card. Now, there is a disadvantage to selecting every unit of the same type with the same ability, and that is when you command a group of units who will have the same ability to use that ability, every one of them will use it. If I tell all of these High Templar to cast a Psystorm over here, they all cast a Psystorm. There are 4 different Psystorms in that cluster. And that usually does not get you the value you want. A lot of abilities do not overlap if they're doing damage to a certain target. Abilities often don't stack. So it's usually, not always, but usually not worth casting the same ability many times over. An ability only actually goes down, completes. The ability only successfully casts if the spellcaster actually reaches its target and does cast the ability. If the spellcaster is interrupted before it arrives at its target, then the ability won't be cast. If the user is killed, for instance, the ability never goes off. And when I say spellcaster, I just mean a unit that has an energy bar and can use it to cast special abilities. We'll talk a little more about energy in a few minutes. Special abilities have ranges. If I ask this science vessel to irradiate this Guardian, you'll notice the vessel has to move up north a bit, because irradiate has a limited range. The vessel can only cast irradiate within a certain range around itself, and that Guardian was outside this vessel's irradiate range, so it had to move to where the Guardian was first. If the vessel had been killed by something along the way, or had been stunned in one of the few ways there are to stun things in this game, then the vessel would never have cast that irradiate. A few episodes ago, we talked about shift queuing. You can hold down shift and give a series of commands to a unit, and it'll do those commands one after the other. Abilities have an interesting relationship with shift queuing. It is usually fine to tell a unit to perform an ability and then use shift and tell that unit to make movements after performing the ability. But it usually does not work if you ask the unit to move, then hold shift and perform the ability after the movement. What you just get is the command to perform the ability overwrites all the existing movement commands immediately. So, as an example, I've got a science vessel here. I'm going to tell this science vessel to defensive matrix one of my High Templar, and then to move over this little lake here, or pool. So, D-matrix, hold shift, right click. The vessel moves over here, it D-matrixes the High Templar, and then it comes to the position I told it to. That queuing up works. Cast an ability, then move.
Excellent. Commencing.
But if I tell the vessel to D-matrix this High Templar, and then move to this little lake, so... No, if I tell the vessel to, let's say, move over here, move on top of this pillar, and then D-matrix this High Templar afterwards, what'll actually happen is, so, right-click, hold shift, D-matrix, the vessel just goes straight to the High Templar and D-matrixes it, the vessel never ends up over here. The command for the vessel to perform that ability completely overwrote anything I had queued up before that. That's how abilities normally work in this game. You can queue up movements to happen after the ability, but you cannot queue up the ability after other movements.
Yes, sir.
There are exceptions to this. The siege tank's siege mode, of course, stops it being able to move. So, if I tell the siege tank, move over here, siege mode, hold shift, right click, nothing happens. I couldn't even tell it to move because when it started sieging, it had lost the command to move at all because sieged up tanks cannot move. Whereas if I select a Marine and tell it to move over here and say stim, shift, right click, well, the Marine still moved to its original destination and then to the second destination that I queued up for it. Stim just didn't stop it moving at all. Stim doesn't require a target, it doesn't require the Marine to move to a particular position, so it didn't overwrite the existing command the Marine was following. It just happened while the Marine was following that command.
Greetings, Command. Yes, sir.
Spells, when they do damage, ignore armor. They have no damage types, they don't interact with the armor and damage type system that we've talked about before. They always do full damage to everything. So if I storm this vessel, it's on 200 health, and it has 1 armor, but it's down to 88 health, that's 112 damage, which is the full damage Psystorm does. The vessel's armor did not protect it, nor did the vessel's armor type. So I alluded to spellcasters earlier, and that's because while there is the general category of special abilities in StarCraft, there is a particular kind of special ability which is often called spells, even though the game doesn't call them that. And this is abilities that use energy. Several units in StarCraft, some of them you can see right here, have energy bars. That's the purple bar underneath the health bar. If it's a Protoss unit, it'll have shields, it'll have health, and it'll have an energy bar underneath that. The energy bar is the white numbers on the unit's wireframe portrait. And certain abilities cost energy to use. Defensive Matrix costs 100 energy. Irradiate costs 75 energy. Psystorm costs 75 energy.
Greetings, Command.
Most units that have energy have a 200 maximum energy pool. And when they use their energy on something, like this, if I just cast a Psystorm, so you can see this High Templar is now on less than full energy, energy regenerates slowly over time. Eventually it'll get back up to maximum energy and it'll stop regenerating again. Virtually every unit in the game that has an energy pool has an upgrade available to it that increases the maximum and starting energy that unit gets when you build them. So that's how abilities work in StarCraft.